Welcome, everybody. We are live on LSR Live. I'm your host, Scott Ritzema, and I think you're really going to enjoy this program on a particularly very practical topic on things we can do in our own home for cheap to help our wellness and healing. Water as medicine. Yes, you heard that right. Water as medicine. We're talking about the forgotten healing power of water therapy. Our guest is Dr. Laura Harris. We're going to bring up her bio so I can introduce her properly here. She's a board certified doctor of natural medicine and passionate medical missionary, just like us at LSR. Trained at Wildwood, UC Pines, and IIOM, she empowers others to restore body, mind, and spirit through Wellspring Health Ministries. You'll learn more about Wellspring Health Ministries and how to encounter their encouragement on your health journey. Jeremy, let's bring up Dr. Harris. Welcome her to the program. And everybody listening, by the way, this is the guest you get to direct your toughest questions to as we head to Q&A a little later. We'll take your questions. There's the sponsor again, Vita Living Products at the LSR store. Help out that throat and nasal and the hand sanitizer. So have at it there at the QR code. Dr. Harris, thank you for coming to talk about, most people probably don't know this term, hydrotherapy. Could you explain, just give a basic definition of what it is, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts and unpack some of the practical things people can do in their own homes today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here. So hydrotherapy, in its simplest definition, is hydro, water, being used as therapy. So it's using water in each of its three states, a solid, a liquid, and a gas, and in both temperatures of hot and cold and in between to help the body facilitate its healing processes.
You just said water as a solid. I'm not sure I want to listen to the rest of the interview. You're going to talk about using ice and we're going to make ourselves cold. We can do it, folks. Be brave. Hydrotherapy is not for the weak-minded. Be strong. Be strong. But it's super effective. I happen to know, having done it myself, I can't wait to learn more about some tips that I can employ with myself and my children. Even kids can do it, folks. Hydrotherapy. So water in its liquid, solid, and gas forms. Is this a new discovery? I mean, how far back does hydrotherapy go?
No, actually, hydrotherapy was a common practice at one point. It goes back to a gentleman named C.H.E.A.P. He was considered the father of modern hydrotherapy. And in 1849, he was able to cure himself from tuberculosis by, you mentioned cold and making ourselves cold earlier. He would take baths in the icy Danube River in the winter time and then run back to his apartment and bundle himself up to make himself warm. And he had learned that the cold baths actually helped to improve his immune system. And he overcame tuberculosis, which was almost unheard of for his time. He was then able to use that and then help treat other people and give them cold baths too. And he created a name for himself using natural remedies.
So it started to catch on already back then, or was this kind of marginalized? Yeah.
No, it started to catch on back then. He would teach it to his classmates and because he was in school at the time studying to be a priest, and was able to actually help cure other people. He used a lot of herbs as well. And just through time, it became a more popular practice where at one point, even in medical schools, nurses were trained in hydrotherapy. So if you went to the hospital for treatment, you were receiving hydrotherapy treatments.
Interesting. I don't think most people know that. I wasn't aware that that was part of the standard of care amongst professional doctors, huh?
It is. I actually have a few old textbooks from Loma Linda University way back when that are all about hydrotherapy. I have another hydrotherapy book just dedicated towards nursing students.
And I would expect that out of old school Loma Linda. Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, that was the College of Medical Evangelists, right? Back in the day, an inspiring example that really, I think, motivates a lot of folks like LSR. And yours, again, is called Wellspring?
Yes, Wellspring Health Ministries.
Okay. And first, just right out of the gates, how can people follow you on not just the hydrotherapy topic, but you do disease reversal consultations, just health coaching in general? How would you frame what you do over there at wellspringlifestyle.org?
Yeah, so I would say to visit the website. It's still in the process of being updated. We're adding new services all the time. But you can go to that website, you find my contact information, some things that we offer, and we work in communities to help improve health and through health education. But I also work with individuals, whether you have a lifestyle disease that you're looking to learn how to reverse naturally, whether you need some advice on meal planning, maybe you want to eat healthier and you don't know what to eat. I'll help you put together a menu based off your needs and what you like. Nutritional supplements, herbs, all of that is part of our programs.
Wow. So, folks, somebody to walk you along your health journey there with some wisdom, experience, and research based, as well as historically tried and true methods of dietary and health reform. Beautiful. Well, let's dig now into this hydrotherapy topic a little bit more. Under what circumstances would somebody want to consider hydrotherapy? They're encountering this symptom, this sickness, whatever. I mean, what are its most common uses?
So hydrotherapy has a lot of common uses. There are so many different, even day-to-day things that you may deal with. It could be allergies. It could be you get a cold or a flu. It could be you just have some aches and pains. There are ways to use hydrotherapy to help to alleviate those symptoms and help your body heal in a way that gives you relief faster and for a longer period of time.
Well, walk us through some of those.
So probably one of the most popular ones is when someone has the flu or they have the cold. They're just feeling under the weather. So a really common and simple way that someone can help boost their immune system is what would be called a contrast shower. So in a contrast shower, you alternate 3 minutes of hot water and 30 seconds of cold water. So you'd get in the shower and you would turn the water as warm as you can stand it. Enjoy that nice, beautiful warmth for 3 minutes, and then turn that nozzle over to the cold as you can stand it, for 30 seconds. It's not as bad as it sounds, I promise. You can rub your skin, you can spin in a circle, but 30 seconds is all you got to do, and then you can go back to the hot. If you alternate that 5 times, ending on cold, and then go take a rest for 15 minutes, you've done a hydrotherapy treatment.
Now, that part about the rest, those who have a lot to do sometimes skip that. I will not confess whether I'm one of those or not. But, I do the showers. I do these regularly. If somebody in my family is fighting something or I've been exposed to it, I've gone in public and stuff's going around, I'll just do it even if I don't feel any symptoms yet. Is there some wisdom in that?
Oh, definitely. Because the alternation of the hot and cold will help to boost your immune system, and it can help prevent you from getting sick. So even just ending your daily showers on cold water can help be enough to help boost your immune system so that you don't get sick when you're exposed to all the germs throughout the day.
So just every time you take your shower, end it in cold. I actually do that. And by the way, it is as bad as it sounds. The first time you do it.
You can get used to it.
The first time you do it, it is insane. You're like, what is this? Ah! You're breathing. But, you, after you do it a number of times, it's just like another routine of the day, like flossing.
It gets to where it actually feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're doing the 5 in a row, the first one is bad, but the other ones actually are kind of a relief because you're getting so hot, right? After 3 or 4 of the hot cycles, you actually appreciate the cold at that point in the shower.
You do. And another thing that I think is really neat, so I would encourage our listeners to even try it. Even just try ending your shower on cold. I can explain briefly that when you apply hot water to the skin, it helps to dilate your blood vessels and increases circulation. Cold has the opposite effect, where it actually will shrink your blood vessels and help push blood away. And by alternating, you're increasing circulation. But when you're in the shower and you have the warm water coming on your skin and then you switch to cold, you can actually feel the change in your skin as it's reacting to the cold. And then if you switch back to hot again, you can feel your skin like relax. You can physically feel that change happening on your cells.
Boy, that's really cool. Because then it's like, it's working. Like I can feel the difference. Do you tend to, when you come out of the shower after having ended on cold, aren't you freezing cold when you walk out of the shower and dry off?
Actually, no. You're not, because when you have those short bursts of cold, it helps to stimulate your system. And by circulating your blood, it actually helps to warm you, because your body's initial reaction is to keep you warm. It doesn't want the body temperature to drop down. So when the cold is applied in those short periods, your body has a reaction to it. So as your blood starts flowing better, you feel warm, and then you can go take a rest, whether it's 10, 15 minutes, and you're warm. You're ready to go throughout your day. Your body's stronger and you're ready to fight.
That's, I think that's good advice, actually, just to end your shower with cold, simply for the purpose of not being cold after your showers. And I know it sounds counterintuitive. It's like, what are they talking about? I'm going to put a bunch of cold water to make myself not cold. It works. That is one thing that works, and you'll enjoy the very first time you do it. You shut that cold off. You get the relief after the 30 seconds of cold, and then you notice, wow, I'm really warm stepping out of my shower this time, instead of normally I'm cold because, the air and you're wet. And so why was it the blood vessel constriction? Is that the reason for the more rapid breathing when you're being hit with the cold?
Yeah, so again, your body goes through different reactions. So the use of hydrotherapy is you have the properties of the water itself, which can aid in healing, the way it retains heat and the way it reacts. But the body itself goes through changes with temperature, and it's playing with your body's reaction. So again, when you apply those short bursts of cold, your body has a reaction that tries to speed up its processes to be like, hey, this is cold, we want to be warm. And then, yes, you get the more rapid breathing, you get like that shock, you can get more alert, and then your blood flows better too.
Oh, wonderful. What is the lymphatic system? How does this affect that?
The lymphatic system is a portion of our body that helps to eliminate toxins. So it pulls toxins out of your body, and it kind of circulates it, stores it, and you have your white blood cells that can come and destroy it. And your lymphatic system exists right under your skin. It's not very deep. And sometimes when you're sick, you can feel maybe in your neck, like when you go to the doctor and they feel your neck, when you have a sore throat, you can actually feel swollen lymph nodes. Under your arms, sometimes you can get swollen lymph nodes. And that's when your body's fighting an infection and storing some of those toxins. So again, as you use hydrotherapy and you're promoting, circulation, you're helping your body send white blood cells and send fighter cells out into your system, along with nutrients that your cells need, to help find little things that don't belong there. It helps to fight germs and bacteria or cells that have undergone changes that are inappropriate, aren't safe to the body, and help to eliminate them.
That makes me think about some things that you have to be careful talking about on social media, but maybe we'll leave that for another time. Hydrotherapy is good for a lot of things, isn't it? Detoxing and cleansing and improving the immune system. And I think just improving you're mentally. I don't know what it is, if it's just in my head or if there's something physiological, but I feel like I can take on the day better when I've ended my morning shower with cold. Is it just I did something hard and you just feel good about that? Or is it just kind of get an adrenaline rush out of it? I mean, what is it?
I think it's a combination. It helps to kind of wake you up for the day. Like I said, that reaction, it helps make you more alert. And then probably it is the fact that you did something hard. So if you could do that, you can take on what's coming next.
Okay, I got a question. You were mentioning the locations of the lymph nodes, and especially, potent locations there, concentrated locations under the arms and the neck and stuff. Is it helpful when you're doing a contrast shower to hit those areas, to target those areas more with the cold than the rest of the body, or is it pretty much all the same?
I would say it's good to get well around, when you're in the shower. But that's a good point in the fact that you can apply the same principles of alternating hot and cold to more localized areas. And there are different ways to do that. That may be in the form of a smaller bath. So maybe you have a dish pan at home that you can fill up with water, and you can alternate hot and cold, whether it's you want to fit an arm or your foot or a leg. Or you can use what are called fomentations, where you heat up towels. And again, you can use a hot towel and a cold towel, whether it's over the chest, over the abdomen, areas that are hard to just localize themselves. And you can still do this process of hot and cold for when you're trying to treat a specific area.
Okay, so if you've got lung issues, you want to be doing hot and cold right on the chest, or do you do the same with sinuses? Do you apply fomentations right there?
Yep. So I am someone who I get chronic sinus infections. And there are actually a few hydrotherapy treatments that help when you suffer with sinuses. One would be the fomentations, where, just to explain simply, you can take a hand towel, you soak it in water, and wring it out well. And you can actually microwave that in a plastic bag for a few minutes till it gets nice and hot. And then you have another layer of towel to protect your skin, but you would fold it over and you can put it over your face and leave that. Again, you can do 3 minutes and then have another hand towel that's cold and apply that to your face for 30 seconds. And alternating that will help to alleviate some of the congestion in your sinuses. It helps to increase the circulation. It opens up those blood vessels and those nasal passageways and can help to improve that. The other way of applying the contrasts, like baths, as another example, is you may have problems with your hands or your wrists. You might have carpal tunnel or arthritis or inflammation, tendinitis. And that would be an example where you fill up a little dishpan and you have hot water in one and cold water in the other. And you can apply your arm, maybe it's your foot that has difficulty, and you do the same principle of the 3 minutes and 30 seconds and alternating 5 times, always ending on cold. And you can help to alleviate some inflammation that way as well.
Excellent. You mentioned the 5 times a couple of times. Are you going above and beyond if you do 7 or 8, or is it kind of diminishing returns and just stop at the 5 and you're good?
Well, 5 is pretty generic. For a treatment, it's a good amount. I have had some instances where I have done more. It really depends on what you're dealing with. So I had a patient one time who had a lot of pain. She was someone who had bone cancer, and she had a lot of pain in her hip area. And so we were using fomentations for the principle of alleviating pain and reducing inflammation. And so we continued to alternate the hot and cold. We probably just continued for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, until she felt that the pain had alleviated enough that she was able to go to sleep and sleep through the night.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it's even helpful just for pain mitigation. Like I've hurt my back before, picked up a log about 8 years ago, and it's never waiting for my new body when the Lord returns. Can't wait for the resurrection, because every once in a while, I was at a hotel just 2 weeks ago, and I was just leaning over. I was just, stationary, getting ice out of the ice machine. And turns out I needed that ice for another purpose, because as I was leaning there,
Oh, no.
the back just went, ah, like I had just done something foolish, which I'm always pretty careful with it. And this time I was just leaning. So I get the ice and I put the ice on the back. I've been doing that since I was a kid. You twist an ankle playing around the playground or whatever, and you put ice on it. But do you recommend in that situation where it's not chronic pain, but it's an incident you've just encountered? Do you just like the ice, or do you like the hot cold treatments in a situation like you just hurt your back or you just sprained your wrist?
I would say that if you have an acute injury, you want to apply cold at first. You want to keep it cold keep ice on it for the first 24 hours. And then after that, by applying hot and colds, you can help to accelerate the healing of the area. But your initial goal is to keep swelling down, inflammation down, things like that.
Excellent. Well, I've heard also of a fever bath. Is that something that you recommend? Is that dangerous? And talk to us about fever baths.
Fever bath is also known as a hyperthermia bath. It has an interesting concept that when you share it with individuals, their initial reaction is, you want to do what? So we talk about the cold, right? And the benefits of cold. So a fever bath would be the opposite extreme, where you are using higher temperatures and hot water. And the whole goal of this bath is to give someone a fever, an artificial fever. So you want to raise their body temperature. It's a great treatment depending on what you're treating. So it's very much used in autoimmune illnesses, in cancer treatments, things like that. Some individuals use it for colds and flus. I personally would recommend doing something like a contrast bath, but it again stimulates the immune system and helps someone heal faster through the use of a fever.
Mm-hmm. That's not something I do regularly, because I did do it once during a certain pandemic. It's just like, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at this, do everything under the sun. Yeah. I had my kids there with the cold towel on my head, and man, that was torture. That was because they're checking your temperature. They're trying to get it up to a certain amount. And It's not something I,
No.
yearn for at the beginning of each day, like my ending the shower with cold. Which, by the way, back to the contrast showers. I was wondering if you're in an area where you're on, you're in a warm climate and it's not well water, and the water's just not that cold. Is there any use in doing the contrast shower if that water's coming out at 78 degrees or something?
Yeah, so that's actually a good point that I meant to mention earlier is that when someone is doing a contrast shower, contrast treatment, the goal is to create a difference between the hot and cold. So even if it's not an extreme difference, so long as you're using as hot as you can tolerate, as cold as you can tolerate, or as hot as you can, and as cold as you can, that difference in water temperatures will still have a result. Now, I live in Connecticut, where, especially in the winter times, the water is very cold coming out of the faucet. And sometimes, if I'm looking to do some cold water, I can't go all the way down to the cold. It feels too cold. So you go as much as you can tolerate either way. And as you alternate, you can find that you can tolerate a little bit more each time.
Excellent. Well, what are some other uses for hydrotherapy or methods of hydrotherapy that we haven't touched on yet?
So I would say another really good hydrotherapy treatment, the hyperthermia bath, the fever bath that you mentioned is a very good treatment. The difficulty with that one is that you can't do that one by yourself. And that requires a little bit more training to do because since you're giving someone a fever, you want to make sure that someone's there to help monitor your vitals, monitor your temperature and things like that. So that's typically not one that I've trained individuals in unless I'm training family members to help someone who requires it. But another good treatment that you can do at home that you may not need as much assistance with is actually called a hot foot bath. And that can be used for headaches. It can be used for congestion. It can even be used for blood pressure. And that's something that's a little bit easier to do.
So having your feet in hot water helps with blood pressure. That's interesting.
Yeah, so the way that you would do a hot foot bath is you would have a tub of water that you can submerge your feet in. The deeper you can submerge, the better. So if your calves are in the water as well, you get a better effect. And you have that water as hot as you can tolerate it. And then the rest of you wrapped in a towel, including the water, and you kind of sit in there and toast up a little bit. And as your body warms up, as you have the hot water at your feet, it helps to pull blood to your lower extremities. It helps to alleviate congestion in the head, in the chest, and it has a calming effect as well. Some people feel very cozy and comfortable in that. And so it alleviates the congestion in the chest during a cold or flu. It's great for headaches, like I said, and migraines. And I have found that by using that treatment on individuals who have issues with their blood pressure, you can help to lower it.
That's fascinating. I feel like I've seen, like when we were kids, in the cartoons or whatever, the sort of stereotypical somebody's gotten sick, and they're sitting in a chair, their feet are in a hot foot bath, they've got a thermometer sticking out of their mouth. Like this is actually somewhat common, isn't it? I mean, going back decades at least. That's why. What is the name of this program? The Forgotten History or something like that of hydrotherapy. This is lost wisdom from generations past that you're trying to bring back to people, aren't you?
Yeah, you definitely. I can picture one of those cartoons in my mind right now that you're sharing. So it definitely used to be more common. And some individuals, I'm able to even recommend to them if they don't have assistants around to completely wrap them up by sitting on the edge of your bathtub with some hot water in it and keeping a cold cloth on your head. And again, it's a forgotten treatment that really does a lot of benefit.
Okay, so cold cloth on your head, hot for your feet. How is that helping with headaches and congestion? Like, what's the mechanism there?
So like I mentioned a little bit briefly earlier, when you have the heat, it causes dilation of your blood vessels, which pulls blood to the area. When you apply cold, you have the constriction of your blood vessels, which pushes blood away from the area. So when you have a headache, and you have extra congestion in your head, when you have the flu and your lungs are acting up and you're full of gunk, by having your feet in the hot water, you're kind of pulling everything away from your upper area. And by having the cold cloth on your head, you're helping to facilitate the movement of that congestion away from your head and from your chest.
Fascinating. You mentioned allergies earlier, and I made a mental note. It's like, I want to come back to that one. This is as we record there, as we present this live here in May. A lot of people are getting into some allergy seasons in their various different climates. So how can this help with allergy relief?
So again, it helps to strengthen and fortify your system so that you can better deal with the difficulties around. Another thing that actually might be good for allergies, as we're mentioning different treatments, is a steam inhalation where you breathe in some saline water. You can take a pot and boil it on the stove. You can put some salt in there and you cover your head and just breathe in some of that saline water. And it helps to clean out your sinuses so that you can breathe better. It helps to mitigate the symptoms of allergies.
Oh, fascinating. So there was water in your gaseous form. You discussed the cold. I'm guessing when you're
Yep, there
putting
you go.
cold on your head with your feet in the hot, you got that cloth in the ice, or when you're doing fomentations where you got hot cloth, cold cloth, you got that in some ice water. So we've hit ice, we've hit liquid, and we've hit the steam there.
Now
Do
we've
you
hit
ever
steam, yes.
recommend? Yeah, exactly. Do you recommend any essential oils in that, breathing that in, or just the salt?
Salt is very beneficial, so I would definitely say have salt. And if you have essential oils on hand, you might want to use a little bit of eucalyptus or a little bit of mint. Again, you want to use a minimal amount. You only need like 1 drop, and that can be beneficial as well.
And
Some
even
like
with just
oregano.
one drop, yeah, if you put just one drop in your nose is like right on top of it as soon as it hits the pot, it still can be a little
It's very
strong.
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always drop it and then come toward it and then do kind of this like you learned in chemistry class in high school, right? So
Make sure it's not too strong.
yes, for sure. So, okay, what have we not hit yet as far as, if you're giving a hydrotherapy course? I know you teach on these things and you do the consultations, and I've been throwing my questions out, but what else is some of the essentials that we haven't touched on?
Well, I would say one of the big things that I bring up in my class is that regardless of what hydrotherapy treatment you're doing, there are certain principles that you need to follow. So first of all, you want to know exactly why you're doing the treatment. Okay, you want to make sure that what you're trying to help, that the treatment that you're applying is beneficial for it. And so that's a big one. But then there are certain principles. So I mentioned, like in the hot foot bath, about having cold applied to the head. You mentioned, like with a fever treatment, one of the keys of that kind of treatment is, again, keeping the head cold. So anything that you're doing that requires heating up the body, you want to make sure that cold is applied to the head, because you can end up with a headache or dizziness or things like that. So the head always cool is a big one. And then keeping the person hydrated is another very important aspect, especially, again, in treatments where you may be heating someone up, like a hot foot bath. You want to make sure that they're hydrated, because as they heat up, your body is, again, trying to maintain its body temperature. You may begin to sweat and you lose fluid that way. So you want to make sure you're hydrated. You want to make sure that you're not getting any drafts afterwards, by keeping yourself warm. And that's part of why it's important to end on cold whenever you do a hydrotherapy treatment. Like you mentioned earlier, it almost sounds counterintuitive to end on cold when you're doing something warm, because then you're going to be cold. But it actually helps to close off all of those blood vessels and helps to protect you from getting drafts and getting chilled.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, you're talking about,
So I say those are some of the principles that are
yeah,
important.
and you're talking about drinking water. I guess that's a form of hydrotherapy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like an internal
Yeah. How does
hydrotherapy. So
that
yeah,
help?
drinking water is very
How does
important.
drinking water, like basic, somebody's like, I got to get this essential oil and this exact herb and this exact product at the pharmacy and whatever, where it's like, no, did you start with, are you drinking water? How much, why is water so important for the immune system?
So water is important for every aspect of our body. It's important for our immune system because it helps our body produce the healthy blood cells that it needs. It helps with our circulation, but it really, every single cell of our body needs water to function. And when I teach hydrotherapy classes, I actually do bring out the importance of drinking water, I have a little diagram that I show where even our bones have water in them. A lot of individuals have the idea that your bones are solid, but they require water too. And a lot of our blood cells, our red blood cells, white blood cells, are formed in our bone marrow. Even our brains and how they function require water. So when you're dehydrated, even if it's a mild dehydration, you may not even know that you're dehydrated, but you feel fatigued, you have brain fog, you're not focusing as clearly. And those can all be symptoms of the fact that you don't have enough water. So it's important for our immune system, but it's important for every other part of our body as well.
Absolutely. So do that year round, every day of the week, and a little bit of like Celtic sea salt in the water if you're drinking a lot of water or sweating.
Yeah, you can do that. If that's not necessary for average amounts of water, but I can see how if you're drinking a lot of water, that could be beneficial. One thing that I have a lot of individuals tell me is that they don't like water, that the taste of water, to me, water doesn't have much of a taste. I don't mind it. But for some individuals, they don't like the taste of it. And so I tell them that they can flavor it with something. You might want to put some mint leaves in there. You can put slices of lemon in there. And by having that little extra flavor, then make it so you like it, so that you drink more of it. For me as well, that's also a great little trick for individuals who maybe they don't drink enough to begin with. So for me, I run through my day, I'm busy, sometimes I forget to drink water. But I have found that if my water has flavor to it, we have some fruit in there, we have some herbs in there, then I'm more likely to drink it throughout the day.
And do those herbs, mint, lemon, whatever, do those have a positive impact in and of themselves to motivate you even more? Or are they just getting you to drink the water?
Yeah.
Like, do they have any properties within themselves that are beneficial?
They do. So any kind of herb that you're using, whether it's something like mint, I use that as an example because it tastes good and adds something nice to the water. But that has a lot of beneficial properties. It has antioxidants. It helps with your immune system. It helps with your respiratory system. If you're putting slices of lemon in your water, that is fantastic for your body too. You got your vitamin C and other nutrients that you would need. And even adding, it's even recommended to drink lemon water in the morning. So I'll add that in there, that having a glass of warm water with lemon in it in the morning and drinking it, that's a good internal hydrotherapy treatment. It kind of helps kickstart your metabolism. It helps to cleanse out your system and get you ready for the day as well. And you've already got your first cup of water or two under your belt before you even leave your house.
Absolutely. I do that. And my next question for you is going to be, Dr. Harris, I do that. Why do I do it? I'm not even sure, but you said it. Cleansing. Lemon is used in keeping things fresh, right? So it's helping to keep your system cleansed and getting started. Starting your day with water is a very good life habit. I used to not. I used to, just eat big suppers, stay up late, eating late, having a pizza at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And then I'd feel like garbage in the morning. I wouldn't drink anything. I wouldn't eat breakfast. I wouldn't exercise. I'd just kind of stumble into work and then be drinking Mountain Dew because I'm thirsty and I want energy. So the caffeine sugar rush would come in. And it's like, man, that was not a way to thrive. Ever since I started going to bed early, no supper or very light. And then in the morning, just starting with water, getting in some exercise. And of course, the mental, spiritual, starting the day off with that devotional time and knowing Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Folks, you can thrive. And hydrotherapy is just one small piece of the puzzle that Dr. Harris talks about at wellspringlifestyle.org. I had my cheat sheet right there. Dr. Harris, I've really appreciated what you've shared so far, and I'm sure people are like, okay, how can I learn more about diet and about a meal plan and about my particular disease situation, symptoms? How do people, how does this go if they book an appointment consultation with you? They go to this website, wellspringlifestyle.org, use that QR code, and then what do they see there?
They will be able to see some of the things that we offer at Wellspring. They'll be able to learn a little bit about our history and what some of our goals and values are. There will also be a contact form. So you can fill out that contact form. You can share what difficulty you're having. I will reach back out to you. And even if someone is out of state, I am still able to offer consultation services to them. We use video conferencing, even phone calls. I am happy to talk to whoever would need some assistance, book a consultation, and we can talk about what you may be dealing with in your life, certain health aspects you may be struggling with that I can give you advice on, I can coach you on, and I can help you know what simple things that you can do to be able to improve your health. Even some of the things that you just shared. You know, it sounds like you were able to make a real transformation with your life by adopting lifestyle habits that aren't really overly complex. They're simple things that you incorporate into your life, but make major big differences.
Huge differences. Where did you get the name from, by the way? Wellspring.
Wellspring. So that's interesting in the sense that I always love the name Wellspring just because of what it signifies. A wellspring is an inexhaustible supply of something. And we got that name from the Bible. It's a biblical concept. You find it in Isaiah, where it talks about how as we do good for others, then we receive blessings that'll be as like a well overflowing. And it also is a concept that can refer to Jesus and how he is in our lives. He's a wellspring to us. And so the idea is that we share health, we share wellness, and we share Christ through what we do as well. So when what we've received of the blessings of God, then it comes to us and then it flows from us to others. And it's inexhaustible and never-ending supply. And that's why we called this ministry Wellspring.
That's beautiful. And I'm sure just like Living Springs, we kind of sound the same. Just like Living Springs welcomes people of all backgrounds, nationalities, religions, etc. Same thing at Wellspring.
Yes, we are here to help everybody and anybody, even if they may have different opinions than we do. They may have different religious views, different worldviews. We don't discriminate. We're just here to help.
That's beautiful. Everybody. Do you have the one or two questions that are like, oh, I wish Scott would have asked this about hydrotherapy? Or would you like to go right to the shout outs and the questions?
Well, I'll just share briefly as you were talking about some of the lifestyle changes that you've made. And you mentioned that hydrotherapy is just one small part, right? So our lifestyle is made up of all the choices that we make, you know, during the day about what time we go to bed, what time do we get up, what do we eat, how much water we drink. All of that ties in. And you mentioned about getting rest as well, and the spiritual, your devotion time every day. And just kind of circling that back to where we started this conversation in the beginning with Sebastian, who was able to cure himself from tuberculosis. So as he went on and he was able to study more about health and more about the body, he came up with what he called 5 pillars of health. So one of them was herbs and the importance of using plants as medicine. Another was, which I know isn't the topic of this meeting today, but exercise is also very valuable to be moving. Nutrition is an important part of it. Hydrotherapy was an important part of it. But one of the other things was balance as well. And so at Wellspring, balance is something that we hold very important also when it comes to lifestyle. And I've had some clients who've come to me and they'll ask, I had one in particular who loved ice cream, would eat ice cream every night. And they asked me, you know, Dr. Laura, are you going to tell me I can't have ice cream? And my answer was no. You know, for where they're at, you know, it's like, let's cut it back though. Maybe you have it once a week instead of 7 times out of the week. So when we work with clients, we try to take them where they're at and gently lead them along instead of making drastic changes all at once. We want health to be attainable. And we want to look at a whole picture because our health is physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And so we look at someone as a whole person in every aspect of their lives. And what can we do to partner together to help guide you and get you where you're looking to go? So I just wanted to bring out that fact again, that yes, hydrotherapy is beautiful, it's important, but it ties in with a wider lifestyle picture as well.
I think that's important to mention because as folks visit your wellspringlifestyle.org, you know, we're talking about hydrotherapy, but what your ministry is about is really mostly about other things. hydrotherapy is one thing that we happen to have you on to talk about the first time. I hope you're coming back. I hope that we can have you regularly to talk about some of those other pillars. But for now, let's say hi to our live audience, Jeremy, who's watching and from where, and we can take questions. But yes, hello to Abby Road. Thank you for the compliments to the channel. We're very honored to receive that and to serve all of our viewers. Who else is there, Jeremy? Thanks, Abby. Louise says, how can they stand it? It's got to be painful. I
That
think
must be
that's
the
probably
cold.
the reference to the 30 seconds of cold. Again, the first time you try it, it does seem like an eternity. And it's like, I'm never going to be able to adopt this as a lifestyle. Keep with it. And it becomes so second nature. You can do it. In fact, you'll get to the point. I can be honest with this. I enjoy the closing scenes of the shower more with the cold at the end because I'm warm after my showers when I do the cold at the end. I know that sounds crazy. Like the first time you do it, you're like, he's just making that up. That can't possibly be true. I would not fault you for that because the first time is a torture session. But when you get used to it, just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. But Dr. Harris, what's your take on that
But
question?
I would reiterate as well is the fact that, again, if you feel like you're just starting out, you're new to cold, ending your showers on cold, you don't have to turn the dial all the way down to as cold as it goes. So do what you can. If it's just, a little bit cold, enough where you're like, ooh, that shivers, do that for 30 seconds and then turn it back to hotter. But then the next time say, okay, I'm going to try to go a little bit further. Because I'll admit, I'm actually on the spectrum where I like hot showers. So for me, when I started looking to end on cold, it was difficult for me because it was too extreme. But if you gradually work it, then it's easier to do. And then also, while you have the cold, it makes it easier if you rub your skin, you spin in a circle. But the movements while the cold is happening as well can make it easier to stand. And when you experience the health benefits of it, when you feel more alert, when you feel stronger, when you're not getting sick as often, then you're going to enjoy the cold even more.
Absolutely. And by the way, with kids, you can do this with kids. Just do what Dr. Harris just recommended, just not quite as cold, then just some amount of contrast does help. I learned that. I'm always like, what's the most extreme I can do of this? That's just a personality. I did not know what you shared, that if there's some contrast, it's benefiting you. It doesn't have to be as cold as humanly possible. So that'll encourage you to get started. And folks, you should also know Dr. Harris is going easy on you. I've heard presenters on hydrotherapy say that you need to do it for a minute. She's saying 30 seconds. I do 30 seconds. I actually am not going to that extreme. That's not one that I really want to relish. It's like, okay, I heard somebody say 30. I'm going with 30. So you think a minute is just not necessary, huh?
So that would fall under the realm of more prolonged cold, which has its own benefits as well. It's not going to hurt you. If you want to go for longer cold, but for the purpose of what we were discussing today about boosting your immune system, kind of preparing for the day, 30 seconds suffices.
I want to ask you about prolonged cold, like these cold plunges where people are going in and just long bathing in very cold water. I want to, maybe one of the questioners is going to ask you about that, but I've gotten my questions in. Let's keep going to the questions, Jeremy. Let's get some more. What state is your program in? I believe she said Connecticut. Thank you, Tony B.
Yes, we're located in Connecticut.
Wonderful. Who else is there? We've got Massa. Is it healthy or unhealthy to take a cold shower regularly?
It would be healthy. It's not unhealthy. So again, we're talking about the premise of the cold and the benefits of cold. It helps to stimulate your system, and you're not going to experience a lot of negative effects from doing that. So if you take a cold shower every day, then enjoy your cold shower, and my respect to you.
Yeah, me too. That's more hardcore than I've ever taken on. So that's good. Who's next? Sylvia, just coming in. Yes, the cold plunge is amazingly cold, but I love it. All right. That's good. I like your attitude, Sylvia. That's contagious in a good way. I think the love of hydrotherapy is spreading through this live stream. Thank you for contributing to that.
Build up to. You build up to a cold plunge by ending your showers in cold.
All right. NASA says, how does hydrotherapy work with intermittent fasting and OMAD? This is excellent sacred knowledge. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here and for listening. I'm not sure what the OMAD is.
I'm not either. I was reading that, hoping hoping you'd bail me out on that one. Massa, maybe you can chime in, and Jeremy can get that in the queue, and we can follow up with OMAD. But what about intermittent fasting? How does it relate to this conversation?
So intermittent fasting, so that would be another example of something that should be a regular health practice and that's beneficial, but it's recently gotten like a new name. So like you were sharing earlier about not eating the heavy meal at nighttime by maybe skipping dinner or just eating something light and then not eating anything until breakfast the next morning. That is essentially intermittent fasting. And it's very helpful because again, when you eat all the time, it kind of creates your system to become more sluggish. It makes it slow down. You're not able to digest everything properly and get the nutrition benefits that you should be getting from your food. And so intermittent fasting is very beneficial. Snacking, like eating between meals, like even making sure that you're not snacking, that kind of falls under the umbrella of intermittent fasting. And it's very beneficial. Hydrotherapy would work well with that because hydrotherapy is also a lifestyle practice that can be beneficial, adding it to your day. Like we were just talking once again about adding the cold to your showers, but doing that and by not eating late at night, by practicing that intermittent fasting, you are doubling up some healthy benefits. And the more healthy lifestyle practices that you add into your life, the better health you'll experience.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that answer, Dr. Harris. Thank you for the question as well. Unsweetened carbonated water, negative?
So I just spoke with someone recently, actually, that they don't like water. So I think this is back when we were talking earlier about how some people who don't like water, and they were drinking a water that was naturally carbonated spring water. And someone told them that they couldn't drink that because it was unhealthy to them and that you had to have flat water. In their case, I told them drink it because they're not drinking any water at all. So something is better than nothing. But when you have certain chemicals and things that are added to the water to make it carbonated, and if there's other flavorings in there that are unbeneficial, it may not be your best
Natural
option.
flavors.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. It may not be as beneficial. So that's why my preference is just regular water. You can get spring water. I actually have a bottle of Poland Springs right here. And then adding something to it like lemon or mint, or even I've seen people add strawberries and pomegranate seeds or orange slices. I feel like that's a better way to go.
See, this actually natural flavors.
Real natural flavors. Yes.
Who's next, Jeremy? Nawawi says, hello from South Korea. Wow,
hello,
that's pretty neat.
Thank you for joining us.
Around the globe. This is such a cool technology. I'm so glad to be here with all you guys from Northern California. Beautiful country there in Northern California.
I've actually never been to California.
Oh, it's the most beautiful state because it has so much variety. I mean, it's just incredible. From Southern California, says Candy. Keith, thank you. Welcome from Southern California. Oh. I lived in Riverside for 5 years with my wife. Thank you for sharing this wealth of knowledge. God bless you, says Jibo. Wonderful. You're welcome. We're glad to be here.
Thank you for being here and listening.
El Rose is listening from New York. Thank you for sharing this. Awesome, El Rose. Thanks for being with us.
That's more my neck of the woods.
Yeah, exactly. There's from Oregon on the other side of the country, from Sharon. Welcome again, Sharon. And Anna, my nervous system is very sensitive. Even a gentle massage can make me feel sick. Mm-hmm. The extreme hot or cold makes my blood pressure drop too much. What can I do?
So, I will say there are some herbs that are beneficial that can help with nerves. So you have adaptogenic herbs that help deal with stress. Things like ashwagandha has gained popularity recently. I would say if a massage makes you sick, don't do a massage. It's not 100% necessary. Extreme hot or cold, if it makes your blood pressure drop, then in your case, you would be what's called contraindicated, which means you shouldn't be doing those kind of treatments. So I honestly would need a little bit more information from you, Anna, as to what health things that you're dealing with to be able to recommend something specific for you. But I would say to do things that you can tolerate. So like we were saying earlier, that you don't have to go to those extreme temperatures. Just do what you can and what feels comfortable to you and what your body tells you, like this works, this is helpful, it's not making me sick, my blood pressure is not going crazy. You start there. And then by having overall healthy habits, so we were mentioning about, nutrition, like eating well, by making sure you're hydrated. I would say going for walks in nature might be really good for you if you have that sensitive nervous system, because even being out, like God is so amazing when it comes to colors. Even color is therapeutic to us. And the colors of green and blue, which I see are the Living Springs logo colors, it's my logo colors as well. But they're very calming colors and they're revitalizing colors. And so when you look outside, you notice that predominantly the two main colors you end up seeing are blue in the sky and green in the trees and grass. So even by going outside in nature and getting the sunshine, taking deep breaths and going for walks and exercising, that might do a lot for your nervous system to help benefit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure all of the principles, Anna, that you can learn from Dr. Harris over at,
Wellspring.
Wellspring. My head was going Living Springs at Wellspring.
It's so similar.
Lifestyle, wellspringlifestyle.org. Give her your specifics, learn all of her principles, and see if some of those sensitivities themselves don't resolve when you do layer upon layer of all of these strategies that she's teaching, these different pillars. Kenny says, would this be helpful for C.I.D.P?
I just to comment back on the last question,
please.
I would say that even one thing that you can do for your nervous system as well would be what's called a neutral bath. And so that's kind of something that a lot of people do anyways, but you wouldn't necessarily think of it as a hydrotherapy treatment. But that is just a water temperature that's comfortable to you. And you can put in some Epsom salts, you can put in maybe some lavender essential oils if you want to light some candles and make it a relaxing environment. And that can be very soothing to the nervous system as well. So I just wanted to add that in.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, now this one.
All right. So for this is an autoimmune disease that affects the myelin sheaths. I would honestly have to do a little additional research on that one to find out which hydrotherapy treatment would be best for that particular illness, because I haven't worked with that one before. And so again, Kenny, if you would like to reach out and contact me through the website, I would be happy to get that information for you.
We got the acronym.
All right.
Meal a day.
One meal a day.
Wow. 1 meal a day. Boy, oh boy. What do you think about that, Dr. Harris?
So that would be, I guess, a more extreme form of intermittent fasting. I would say that depends on the individual. I wouldn't recommend that for long term, just because our body needs a certain percentage of calories and nutrition in order to function and in order to run properly. And so if you're doing it as a form of fasting, then that can have some beneficial results. But over a long term, if you're not getting the right nutrition and the right calories that you need, then that might become a little bit more problematic. I feel like the best recommendations as far as meal plans goes would be the 2 meals. Maybe you have a mid-morning breakfast that's a very large, the old saying, breakfast for a king, lunch for a queen, and dinner for a pauper. So you have a well-rounded breakfast that helps to fortify you for the day, and then an afternoon meal. And for most people, that is enough to sustain them for the day and get them their nutritional needs. There are some individuals where maybe they do more manual intensive labor, where they work outside in the field, and they may need a third meal, like later in the day, to give them a little extra nutrition and energy to replace everything that got burnt up during the day. But for most people, 2 meals are good. But thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, TMAD, TMAD. 2 meals a day. Awesome.
I will
Thank you,
say, you
Elro.
make me think of an individual that I had. So I will say it's possible to be too healthy. That may sound counterintuitive, but there are certain things that I've learned over the years. There are certain things that are healthy for us or that could have health results, but wouldn't necessarily be that they're meant for everyone.
Mm.
So even when it comes to diet, I like to separate my recommendations into what is a healthful diet and then what would be a medicinal diet. So it's possible to be too extreme in health because you're getting too much or going too far with what's supposed to be a good thing. And I actually worked with someone who became so strict in their diet that they ended up very sick because they weren't getting the nutrition that they needed.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I would recommend
Wow.
that you're eating well-rounded foods and you're meeting your calorie requirements for the day, and you're fortified to go forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's good advice. Who's next? From Ghana. Welcome, Saki. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
You
for
gave
joining
us that flag once, didn't you? And I didn't know where the flag was from. Thank you for helping us this time. Can one drink too much water? Yeah.
You
Talk to
can
us about
actually.
that.
I had somebody ask me that the other day, actually. Yes, you can drink too much water, but so when you drink too much water, what ends up happening is you end up flushing out your system and flushing out all your electrolytes and everything. And I think that's what you were mentioning earlier about putting Celtic salt or something in the water to help prevent that. But for most of us, the issue is not about drinking too much water. We don't sit and drink a whole gallon at a time. For the majority of us, we don't drink enough water every day. So yes, it's possible, but it's not very likely.
You could hypothetically really hurt yourself too. If you just guzzle a ton of water, like enough will get down that throat to the point where you can hurt yourself, right?
Yeah, but it's in that sense, yes. But there have also been cases of individuals who have died from drinking too much water because they were like physically active. Let's say you just ran a marathon or something. You already sweat and lost a lot of electrolytes, and then you're guzzling like a bunch of water down and drinking so much all at once that you end up diluting your blood too much, and your cells are losing their electrolytes. It affects your heart function, and people have died that way. But again, it's not common. So most of
No.
us don't drink enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that danger is probably not worth spending 3 minutes on. It's like we really need to more focus on, are you getting enough hydration, enough of that water, drinking it regularly. You can see the color of your urine. If it's dark, if it's deep yellow, then you're not getting enough water.
Mm-hmm.
So working on that, you'll find headaches, you'll find better brain fog. All of these things can resolve immune system improvements, better appetite control. There's so many benefits from drinking enough water. Make sure you're drinking enough water, folks. That's hugely good advice.
We'll do a whole talk just on that.
Come back next time on water. Who's next? Jeremy, we can take two more. How about, I've been one meal a day for a decade. I think it's vital.
Well, congratulations to you. If that works for you in your body and it meets your energy requirements, then good for you.
All
That's
right.
one of those things you got to need to know how your body works.
Who's next? Anna says, thank you. I do healthy eating and alternating medicine. Does that mean alternative medicine?
I think that's what she meant, yes.
I had never heard of this bath. We'll try it. I have lots of health issues after COVID. Didn't take the jab.
Okay,
Do you want to comment on her comment?
Well, I'll say to try the bath and see if that benefits you. And again, incorporate that with some light exercise and spending time out in the sun. Sunbathing would be another one. And, by incorporating those into your daily lifestyle, you might reap good benefits.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about that 1 meal a day thing still. And I'm wondering if in order to get sufficient calories, you're eating a low fiber diet to have more concentrated calories at the 1 meal, so you're not wasting away. And with low fiber, are you increasing risk like for colon cancer?
Yeah.
Potentially.
So
whoa. That same guy, Anana's daughter, says, can you speak about colon hydrotherapy?
There you go.
That popped up. I didn't even read that when I posted this comment. That's interesting. Glad you're here, brother. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So colon hydrotherapy, there are like two main things that I think of with that. One of them would be a colonic, something's called a colonic, and the other would be an enema. And these are two things that they're very similar. So most of us are familiar with what an enema is and the benefits of that. That's helpful if someone is constipated. Maybe they're not having regular bowel movements. A colonic is similar concept, but it's done with a machine that uses like a gentle vacuuming, like suctioning power, where you fill in with water. Water is inserted into the colon and then is gently taken out and then repeated. And the water can go a little bit higher in the colon and in the intestine than a regular enema would. I will say that a lot of individuals may overuse this. It's beneficial to do as a cleansing, but I've worked with some individuals who they do things like enemas frequently because they say that they have trouble with their bowel movements and they rely on the enemas. I had one individual who could not use the bathroom without an enema. And I will say that if you use something like that too often, then your body gets lazy in a sense. So your colon figures, I don't have to put in any work because they're going to be doing it for me. And so if you overuse it, it can have a negative effect where then it does make it harder for you to use the restroom. So it has its place. That would be one of those things that we talk about, balance. So if you find that, again, you're just doing a cleanse, maybe once a year or something, that's great, good for you. But if you're finding that you need colon hydrotherapy more often, then we would be looking at other lifestyle practices like your diet and your exercise.
Oh, that's very helpful. Thank you, Dr. Harris, for that. And thank you, Honest Doubter, for being with us. Book an appointment for a consultation with Dr. Laura Harris over at wellspringlifestyle.org. And hope to also have LSR book another Dr. Laura Harris visit, because I think we have a lot more that we can engage with our audience on from your wealth of knowledge, from your studies and your experience. So we're very honored to have had you today, Dr. Laura, and each of you listeners. We're really blessed that you are in this audience, a part of this community. And whether you comment or not, whether we're able to get to your question or not, we appreciate every single one of you. You can go to livingspringsretreat.org. You can go to wellspringlifestyle.org and engage more there. Or see you next Wednesday. Jeremy, who's our guest next Wednesday? Eden Valley. Shaniel, right? He's going to bring it up. But Dr. Laura, thank you again for being with us. And blessings to your work and those that you're reaching in Connecticut and beyond through your online platform.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it is Shaniel Fisher about the Ministry of Eden Valley. See you Wednesday, May 28th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, as always. And thanks to our producer, Christian Digital Network. From likes to lives changed. Please scan that QR code, subscribe to CDN YouTube channel, and next week's is pre-recorded. So you can engage in the chat, but we won't be able to put you up on the screen. And then at the end of next week, we're like, who's the guest next week, which would be the first Wednesday of June? And we didn't know at the time that we pre-recorded it. So stay tuned to the shorts feed. We'll announce the guests, and we are going straight through the summer. We had mentioned maybe there will be some changes. We might do fewer programs or something in the summer, but we're on it. We love you guys. We're going to do this every Wednesday with you through the summer as well. So stay tuned, and God bless you all. May the peace of Christ dwell with you richly and abundantly as the living springs of life burst forth from within as a wellspring. God bless you. Goodbye.
Bye.